Welcome, everybody, to Delaware North America's live stream series. My name is Jared Ray. I'm the Managing Director for Energy Utilities at Delaware North America. Thank you to those that are joining us live. This webinar will be immediately available as a replay after the live stream. So feel free to comment below in the chat, introduce yourselves, let us know where you're tuning in from, and network with the other professionals that are here. That networking component has always been one of my favorite things about the utilities industry. So to kick things off, I'd like to introduce you to the other panelists here. Stuart Querns, who is the Solution Director over Energy and Utilities here at Delaware North America. Stuart is a mechanical engineer by trade and started his career in oil and gas operations. He has been implementing SAP and in the energy and utility sector for the past 27 years. Dries Verheyen is the product owner from Hydroscan Group. He is a bioengineer by trade with a focus on soil and water and has been focused on the utility industry for the past decade. So thank you guys for joining us. Before we dive in, I want to quickly mention for anyone attending the ASUG for Utilities conference on September 9th through 11th in Miami, Florida. We will be there at booth 206, this team and some others from the Delaware team. We're excited to be a gold sponsor for the event this year. Do let us know if you'll be there, or feel free to simply drop by the booth, find us at the conference. We're going to have a couple events on Monday and Tuesday night, and would appreciate the opportunity to meet you in person. But as we get started here, just a quick note. We will be demonstrating software for about 30 minutes of this presentation, and that's going to be best viewed on a desktop instead of your phone. So if you have the opportunity to switch over, please do so now. So with that, let's get into the presentation. We're going to spend about 10 minutes talking through some slides just as we set up the software demonstration. And then, as I said, we're going to spend about roughly 30 minutes on that demonstration portion. So I'm going to start by providing us with just a brief company overview before handing it off to Dries for the same. And then we're going to dive into this non-revenue water topic. We're going to talk about the strategic focus and partnership we have on non-revenue water, how we thought about the software solution to this problem, and how we see the software solution fitting into the overall asset management lifecycle. And we will open up for questions at the end, but feel free to log those questions in the chat along the way. So introduction here, Delaware, if you're not familiar, is a global company. We're headquartered in Belgium with over 5,000 consultants spanning 19 countries. Delaware was founded as a partnership structure with the vision of building a company for the next 200 years. And what that means for our customers is that you can count on us to help you plan and execute on your longer term strategies. Delaware is one of only 11 platinum partners for SAP globally, and we're organized by industry vertical. The team here on the phone today represents the energy and utilities vertical, but we also serve aerospace and defense, automotive, chemicals, manufacturing, and mill products, to name a few. What you see down here with these Pinnacle Awards, these are partner awards given by SAP. Specifically, ours was given last year for BTP, which is integration, a component of this solution. And just this last thing down here at the bottom, this magic quadrant you see down here was focused on the market for S4HANA implementation partners. Delaware was identified as a niche provider, and Gartner is quoted as saying Delaware is a good alternative to the Big Five. So as of this year, Delaware has been engaged in over 300 S4HANA projects globally, and that spans across those industries that I mentioned earlier. The last point I want to make here before I hand it over to Dries is Delaware reinvests annually in both IP and partnerships that are focused on those industry verticals that we support. And our Hydroware partnership is a great example of that. And Dries will expand upon that partnership here in just a few slides. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dries to give an overview of Hydroscan and take us away into the demo.
Thank you, Jared. I would like to introduce first Hydroscan as a company to you. We at Hydroscan are a world-leading expert in holistic integrated solutions for a more sustainable and cost-effective water management. We are founded in 2003, so we reached already 20 years of this company, and we have our roots in the water modeling. Now we have a team of 50 plus water industry experts. And We started with the consultancy business, so we have a lot of clients in the public sector, and we build up our knowledge on the water sector. And that's also we talk the language of our customers. Built upon this consultancy history, we are now making smart water solutions, and we are building this consultancy approach into real-time applications, and we build this modeling intelligence in a real world, real-time applications. And we combine this unique thing. We have the knowledge about the métier in water management, and we combine this in the platform approach for the non-revenue water problem, as I will talk about later. In the Belgium market, we placed ourselves together with Delaware to introduce our NRW cockpit software into the water supply companies, and we formed there the company Hydroware, and we are also now looking internationally to expand on this with integrations to SAP. But let's first see what we all have in portfolio as technologies as Hydroscan. We are not only focusing on the NRW story, but also we have flood forecast, which is a real-time flood prediction. We can predict up to 3 hours ahead at street level where it will flood. So municipalities can be alarmed where this can happen and take measures. Also to plan measures against this flooding, we have a master planner that can efficiently calculate things that you put on the terrain to reduce the flooding. With Rioscan, we will maximize or fasten your sewer asset management database, and to build this up, we use AI in photographs to automatically map your sewers. But today the focus will be on the NRW cockpit with the leak redux algorithm. We developed this for the water supply companies for the reduction of their non-revenue water. And is this a problem? Yes, this is a really global problem. A lot of water is lost from production to the client. In the graph, you see the average in Europe is about 20% of the water that is produced that is lost before it even reaches the client. Globally, we lose almost 350 million cubic meters of water per day. So it's a really huge problem. On top of that, the losing of the water, we have also service disruptions that can be the effect of the leaks. If you have a lot of leaks in your system, you cannot even get the water at your clients anymore because it is lost, and pressure losses will occur. Also, when you have a lot of leakage in your system, you will need more energy, more pressure to put on your system to get even the water at your clients. And also speaking about environmental impact, yes, of course, the wastage of water is also important, but regarding to climate change, with the drought and reservoirs depleting, the sources are drying up, and then we really need to take care that we take the problem of water leakage very serious to reduce this, because the sources are also drying up. Okay, and that's why we work together with Delaware as Hydroscan. We make an integrated leak detection platform. We supply the technology, the algorithms, and Delaware makes sure this will be embedded into the client's infrastructure and integrates well with all the other applications. It's an open platform, so it communicates with already existing systems at the client. We use the IoT capabilities, sensor, digital water meters. So we integrate this information and we put algorithms on top. So this creates a unique combination of systems and data that we apply at clients, making robust modeling and analytics possible at every scale, from the small water companies to very big water companies. And as leak management is also actually operational asset management, big leaking systems, they need asset management to reduce the leakage. So this system is really proactive and preventive asset management on water supply systems. And for the focus on NRW, so what does the client need to do to manage their NRW well, or their water to diminish their water leaks? Most of the time, clients will divide their water network into sectors because it's more manageable, and they can track the leakage in smaller zones. That make sure you can quickly assess leakage and find them and repair this leakage, because the awareness time and the time to find the leak on a terrain, that is the one to reduce, to be very efficient in reducing this leakage. We use the available data at the client. So if some water supply companies don't have a lot of sensors yet, we advise them also to place more, but we start with available data and we build up gradually. Another way of controlling leakage is, of course, taking control of your network pressure. But if you do these measures on your network, this can also be monitored with the NRW cockpit. And now I give the word to Stuart. He will talk more about, from the NRW cockpit, the further integrations.
Thank you, Dries. Welcome, everybody. So what I'm really looking to position here in overview is what we're looking to demonstrate today in the art of the possible, if you like. As Dries mentions, the objective here is to harness that quality of information that resides in the field sensors, and then utilize that in the form of data, aggregate that, and then analyze that through the intelligence of the algorithms that sit within the NRW cockpit solution. Then localize where there's issues, be that burst issues or leak accumulation. Either way, then harness that information and use it in a really proactive way through integration to SAP. Now we're looking to leverage the SAP Business Technology Platform here, which is a very flexible way of integrating between field operations and applications and SAP as a workflow solution downstream. Having harnessed that information and the integration, we're going to use that to drive the maintenance workflows, both in the SAP ERP side, but then push that out to field operations and the mobility solutions that support that. So that's the broad intention of the demonstration today. The other thing which we're looking to do in terms of just a bit more detail I'm going to give you here is drill into each of the applications that support that process that I just described. So, Dries is looking to demonstrate how the NRW cockpit from Hydroscan is going to support the analysis of the information from field operations and sensors to address or identify where there's anomalies, either in trending leakage or in burst incidents, and then harness that information and push that through BTP, SAP BTP, into the ERP solution, driving the behavior in SAP ERP in terms of generating a notification, then building a work order from that, planning the work order, dispatching that to the field, and then mobilizing the field operations to address the issue through the work order on the mobile device and address the leak incident or repair or report back based on what findings they've got. So that's broadly speaking the demonstration we've got today. I will stress this is obviously an example we've got here. This can be driven in a number of different ways depending upon your situation as a water utility, but hopefully we'll get the point across around the possibilities of the technology and what value it can provide. Without any further delay, I will hand back to Dries to start the demonstration.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. Before we get into that, it looks like we got a couple questions coming in. We can address before we head into that. Question from Drew Wallace: does your solution address anything like water contamination?
In a sense, yes, because as I said, we can connect all types of sensors to our NRW cockpit, and of course, then we need a real-time sensor measuring the quality of your water, and that can be easily connected and that can be tracked. So you can follow up this water quality in what we call the data part of our connection of data part in our NW cockpit. I will not demonstrate this today, but that's a possibility there in the sensor part of our application. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dries. One more question here, and I know you're going to touch on this in the demo to an extent, but another question from Drew. Detecting the leaks requires sensors, but can you explain what is typically needed for companies to put sensors in place?
As Hydroscan, we can also advise or have a service that can guide you where to place sensors. Based on modeling, we can see what is the most efficient configuration of placing new sensors if needed, and where they must be placed, and if valves or parts of the network can be closed to reduce the amount of sensors that need to be installed, and we can guide the water supply companies into optimal sizes of these to construct DMAs for leakage management. So yeah, a GIS is needed of your water supply network in order to make this analysis. So we can on GIS base or model base advise there.
Okay, thanks, Dries, and thanks for the questions, Drew. We'll hand it back to Dries here to get us into the demo.
Okay, thank you. First, I will show you separately the NRW cockpit application. It's built as a web application. So as a water company, you just need a recent browser and a login into our system. And then you will land upon the leak detection part of our software. What do you see if you log in? It's an overview map of these DMAs that I was talking about, these zones. And what are these zones actually? It are zones that have inflow or outflow of water. So these black dots on the screen that are the sensors measuring the flow of water. And these sensors, incoming, outgoing water, they construct a DMA balance. So you know exactly how much water is consumed in these zones in a real-time environment. So the sensors need to send, of course, the as real-time as possible their flow data to the NRW cockpit. And that's all part of the integration. But then we build on top this consumption balance. From this consumption balance, it contains, of course, the consumption of water from the households or industry that is there. But on top of this, you have the leak inside that signal. And at Hydroscan, we have developed a leak redux algorithm that, based on historic data, makes a fingerprint for you per DMA. And this will help you, or will calculate for you, the leakage status of this DMA. We have mainly two types of leakage that can occur. You have the sudden things that can happen. A pipe can burst suddenly because of issues, and then suddenly there will be a lot of consumption, higher consumption, and you will need immediate action to go on a terrain and to find that leak. So there is a direct burst alarm. Otherwise, if smaller leakages start to occur, this cumulatively will in the end give you a lot of water loss. That is also leak redux tracks for you. Into the real output of this application or leak redux onto this DMA, we see the zone is blinking red, so there should be something happening, and we see a level 5 alert with a loss flow of almost 30 cubic meters an hour. So if you click on this zone, you can analyze what is the data. Don't I have any data problems there? And on top you see the two sensors that's the incoming flows of water into this zone. And if you sum these incoming flows, you get this water balance, as we call this. What is the consumed water per time step of this zone? Most of the time, water supply companies are used to look at night flows and compare that to what is expected without leakage. And they follow that up on sometimes weekly, monthly basis, or even longer to track the leakage. That's giving you also an indication of what is the background leakage that I have in my zone. And you see also LeakRedux cumulatively is tracking this background leakage for you and also giving you priorities based on that. But this morning, if you look at the real-time data, there was a burst in this area. We see this by using the upper threshold of this fingerprint that we use in the LeakRedux algorithm. If you go suddenly above this threshold, you have a burst and you need immediate action to find this leak. Sometimes, or most of the times, such a burst, it will surface. So clients could call to you and say, look, I have some water on my street. So then you know the location. But we have also a lot of cases in the past with clients that such a leak could not be found on the terrain because it directly goes into the sewer, for example. But it can create a lot of damage if you don't find that leak in short time. There could be sinkholes in the road, for example. So there's a lot of economical damage that can be related with these burst leakages. And then you really need immediate action, send teams on a terrain to find the leak there in order to not have this economical impact. So this is really a priority DMA. It's also blinking very red, but also the other DMAs are tracked automatically and are being prioritized in real time for you. Just to show a few, there is also some leakage that you can find here, but it's not the highest priority to go there. And then we have also this green. I will show you some. There you see that last week they have found the leakage there. So on the bottom you see cumulatively some leaks were rising. People were sent on the terrain, found the leak, repaired it. So this is again back to normal, I would say. So we don't need to take a look anymore to that zone, and that's the way this can be managed inside the algorithm. But of course, under these DMAs, there is lying 50 to 100 kilometers of pipes. So it's not always easy to find the leakage. Also, on top of the map, we have the event table, and that gives you an overview of all current active leakages with different types. It could be a burst, it could be a cumulative leakage. And standard, we show only the active ones. Of course, you can filter. You can also look to the finished ones to do a post analysis of the leakage for a certain zone in a time range, so that you can export, for example, a table from zone 1 and analyze what was the leakage last year and what is the summation. If you click on an event, you will see what was indeed the dynamic of this leak. How does this? How fast did we find it? What was the amount of leak that we found there? So that's important information to go and look backwards if wanted. We also track the loss flow and the total volume. So that's nice for post-analysis. How much water did we lose in that zone for this time period? But let's take a look at the leak occurring now in zone 1. It's a burst happened this night, and you get in the morning to your office and you don't have a call for any client. So that's a burst that needs immediate action from your teams. So we need to start here a workflow. Of course, sending people on a terrain, there are a lot of steps that you can need to do, and that is handled by SAP. And with this button, you send the information of this event, this highest priority for today, to SAP. So there the workflow can start and your teams on the terrain can work further with this information. But that's the part that Stuart will explain further to you. So I give the word to Stuart now.
Thank you, Dries. So just before I dive into the the demonstration or the continuation of the demonstration, I thought I'd take a few moments just to frame the solution again so we can see the context that we've just seen, and secondly, what we're going to look at next. Dries has been talking about, harnessing this information coming from connectivity and sensor information and using that to drive a behavior in terms of the software that analyzes that, understand that there's an incident or an event that's taken place. As I mentioned earlier, we're looking to leverage SAP BTP, Business Technology Platform, to drive our behavior in the downstream workflows in SAP ERP and beyond. Just to stress again what we're leveraging here. So in particular, this is a relatively rudimentary integration. We can be significantly more advanced than that, but it demonstrates the point. And we particularly harness the Create Notification API. Again, this can be designed in a particular way to suit the requirements from your business, but it gets the point across. The whole point of this is to drive a downstream event on the SAP side that aligns the operational teams to address the leakage that's been identified. So just working through this process, what I'm going to look to demonstrate today in a fairly brief way is the creation of the notification as a direct result of that burst incident that Dries highlighted, and then the creation of the subsequent order to enact the activities to rectify that at the very least. I'm going to talk a little bit about the resources, but in this particular demo, I haven't actually applied any sort of advanced resource planning or scheduling. We're just going to use basic assignment of resource and release of the order to dispatch the work to the mobile device. You can get an awful lot more advanced with SAP solutions if you want to get into things like more advanced scheduling and dispatch process. But given the duration of this demo, we've kept it pretty simple. Then the last part really is just around what I'm going to do in terms of mobilizing the field team and using the mobile software to support them. So that essentially frames what I'm looking to demonstrate today, and hopefully that'll get a point across.
Yeah. Hey, Stuart, just before we get into to your demo, we're going to tee up a couple more questions from Drew. And I think this first one that you posed, Drew, is getting answered through the demos, but nonetheless, we'll bring it up here. Sensors help find a link in the zones, or is that normally performed manually by a service ticket? I would expect the sensors being able to monitor the pressure in the lines pipes to give a range of where the leak is at. And so that's a little bit of what Dries went through. But Dries, anything to expand upon within that question?
Yes, I understand well that we could also use the pressures that are measured in the pipes to locate leakage. Is that what is meant here? But indeed, for sure, we have flow, but as I said, the NLW cockpit, we can connect more data, also pressures. And this measurement of that data is the part I didn't demonstrate, but we have also dashboards there. You can build dashboards with flow pressure and indeed say what is the normal range of pressure here and see if there a leak occurs in the DMA, if it's related to any pressure dropping in some other sensors. And then you can also, by the help, locate the leaks more easily by looking at pressure data, for sure.
Yeah. And then next question here, assuming this solution can also be used for natural gas.
Yeah, as long as sensors are measuring flow in a pipe network and we have an idea of what is the normal consumption of this flow, of course, we can also build a fingerprint for normal gas consumption. If it has a seasonality, if it has a normal pattern, we can track and we can do that for sure too, yes.
Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll pass it back to Stuart to get us back in.
Thank you. Perfect. So I'm just going to start at the point that Dries handed off from the NRW cockpit and let this run through the process. But I'll pause at a couple of points that I'm interested in kind of communicating the key issue or the key point here. Just going back to this event log, as you can see that Dries demonstrated, looking across all the zones, we've identified there's a particular area in zone 1 where we have a burst. There's also a cumulative leak. So kind of zeroing in that zone, we have that information that describes there's a couple of items here that we need to kind of operate against. Just pausing just now. So Dries did mention that we've designed this in terms of the interaction. This could be automated. At the moment, we've got this as an activity that your engineering team or your management team would enact the action. But again, we could automate this easily enough. But in terms of the demonstration, we've got this as a workflow button. As I said before, really what this does is it triggers the API, automatically then generates the notification in the SAP solution that's lined up to it. So I'll just let this run through the process. But in the background, this is actually performing the action. Whilst this is running, there's a couple of things that we've designed into the integration in terms of the reaction on the notification side that I'll highlight when we get to the notification review. So again, triggering the workflow started, so the NRW cockpit knows that the incident's been acted upon. So before I dive into the kind of the bones and the process of the reaction in SAP, I just want to mention a couple of things here. I'm guessing not everybody on the call or this session is maybe familiar with SAP S/4HANA in terms of user interface. And I just want to land a little bit about that because this is a highly flexible user interface that we've got available to us. At the moment, what you're looking at is my home screen, specifically designed around what I want to access in terms of the applications. Now, what I would expect to see from any business is that this would be designed around the specific roles and responsibilities of the users, and you would see a really focused view of applications that are relevant for them and their role. I've actually designed or built a kind of version of that in one of the launch pads, which you'll see in this next section. So you can see if I run up to the asset management label, I've actually built out a number of applications that are relevant for this demonstration. And again, as I mentioned, this can be designed around the specific roles and responsibilities of your team that interact with the system. The one in particular I'm really interested in is finding the notification that's just been triggered. What I've built out here in this notification list is a variant specifically for this Hydroscan demo, and this introduces some parameters around the list edit, if you like, that will focus in on the notifications relevant for this exercise. Again, entirely configurable, really down to you how you create these variants to identify the information in the most efficient way. So what you're seeing here now is a list of all the notifications relating to reactive maintenance. I'm just going to sort this in a descending fashion so I get the newest notification at the top. This particular point, I'm just going to pause. An important thing to kind of stress, and this is part of the design of the integration that we've built. Again, this logic can be adapted for whatever your business requirements are. We've taken a view in this for the demonstration. So essentially what we're doing is taking the information from the NRW cockpit relating to the burst incident, and we've aggregated that in the notification title automatically. So you'll see here the identification of the burst and the timestamp associated with that. That's notification 277 is the one that we generated. You can also see it's picked up the technical object. So there's a mapping automatically in the background here between the information that's held within NRW cockpit from the zoning and all of the asset information that's held in there and what's held in SAP. So those two things are synchronized. You can see that that's identified DMA DZ01, which is the one that was in a critical situation with a burst incident. That's also reflected in terms of the prioritization of the notification. So very high notification level. And it's identified as a burst within the title. So there's a number of elements of this notification that identify it for immediate action. Just letting this run through, we're going to drill into the notification and look in a little bit more detail. just to reiterate the point I mentioned in terms of the listing, again, we've identified this notification, and within the title, it uniquely identifies this in terms of its prioritization and the timestamp. It's a burst incident at this time. You'll also see within, and I'll let this run through, within this notification, we've picked up the fact we've created a maintenance order. So for expediency of this demo, I've actually processed this notification to order, and it has an order associated with it. I will also kind of stress the point that within SAP, all of these applications, if you see anything highlighted in a kind of that light blue color, I can drill through to the object. So it's highly flexible in terms of getting to the next level information that relates to the work that's going to follow on from this. In which case, exactly what I'm going to do. Another feature in terms of this this drill down is, you see down in the bottom right hand corner, I've got this thing that says more links. These follow-on functions that I've identified here are things that I've set up. There's a whole host of other things that I can set up that, depending upon what you want your team to process through when you're looking at notifications orders, you can design that specifically around their requirements. At this point, I've actually allowed the ability to change maintenance order, display maintenance order from the notification, which is an extremely useful thing when you've got planners interacting with these objects. So at this point, I'm going to kind of drill into the maintenance notification and show you a little bit more information that's relevant in terms of how we're running this demo. Within the operation data, I've actually created another operation relating to the burst follow-up, and I've identified the individual specifically. And if you recall, I mentioned earlier on that I'm not doing anything particularly advanced in terms of scheduling and dispatch. We could use the resource scheduling capabilities that are inherent with SAP to do that. I've taken a very rudimentary view in terms of planning and scheduling and dispatch here. By assigning the individual and releasing this order, automatically dispatches the order to the mobile device relating to me. So when I later on in this demo, when I pick up the mobile application, you'll see this order flowing through into my backlog purely because I've been assigned to the job. We can do this in a more advanced way, obviously, using the scheduling tools, but in this case, I've kept it pretty simple. So I think the point here is that all this information is available through some very, very rapid actions in the system. You don't have to drill through 15 transactions to get to it. One other key element of this solution overall is our ability to geo-enable all of the objects relating to the work and the asset in SAP. This is important for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it gives the ability, certainly from the desktop application, to visualize the work, visualize the asset. But more importantly, when I deploy this information to the mobile device, it enables the same capability from a geospatial sense on the mobile application. So by performing this action, which I'm going to demo now, I've geo-enabled all of the information that sits behind this work and the assets that relate to it. Just highlighting a couple of things, and I'll pause there. This really is an organizational thing as to what GIS solution you have deployed, but the kind of global leader in GIS is obviously Esri, or other ones OpenStreet, etc. But what we've got here in terms of the demonstration is a couple of base maps that are available to us. Again, this would adopt whatever the map and GIS capabilities that are resident within your organization, but should get the point across. In this particular case, because this is an urban residential type location, I'm going to select OpenStreetMap from a viewpoint of view. Another element of this, which is really starting to layer on more information, as I mentioned before, we have geo-enabled the information so that it can be rendered on the map. From a functional location point of view, this relates to the zones. So if I let this run, you'll see the zonal information that is resident in Hydroscan is also resident in SAP, exactly modeled in the same way. And that information can be drilled into. So we've modeled zone to zone the information that's held within Hydroscan's reflected in SAP in order for us to operate across that region in the same way that's represented in Hydroscan. All of the information that sits in this spatial view is available for drill down. So, you saw me navigating through the technical object or the order notification from a transactional or a viewpoint of view in ERP. I can do all the same things through the spatial viewer. In this case, I'm looking at the active functional location, which is zone 1. And I can access the zone itself for the information that sits behind that. But I can also perform some follow-on functions against that if I want to from this view. In this case, create notifications, create orders, or go in and display the information relating to the functional location. I'm going to perform a little bit more information now and overlay the in-process orders. What you'll see happen here now immediately is the system knows that it's got an order of high priority against this zone and renders the coloring again. All this symbology and color schemes and structures within this geospatial view are entirely configurable. So we've set this logic up so that the zone is represented, and anything that is high priority is represented with a particular color or a particular symbol. Again, it's entirely configurable. Again, selecting the zone, I've now got access to the in-process orders that are available against that zone. In this case, order 604 is the order that we created relating to this burst incident, and I can navigate to information in more detail from here. All of the information you saw earlier on in the transactions is available through this route as well. I'll just demonstrate that from a completeness point of view. Looking at the order in this case, in display mode, I could do it in change mode as well if that's something you want to allow your technicians to do. Again, there's the information that I showed you earlier on. Just going to a little bit more detail now. So I've got the technical objects, the zones. We've layered on in-process orders. I'm now going to layer on in-process notifications just to show you the availability of the information from this view. Again, toggling through them at the top of the screen there, active function locations, in-process notifications, all that are available against it, and in-process orders. Just pause there. So hopefully that gives you a view of the flexibility in terms of what we can design in the SAP backend system, the ERP. What I'm going to show you now is how that translates into mobile operations using Service and Asset Manager. Again, it's a very straightforward exercise for us to deploy this solution. It's highly configurable and it's configured based on your organizational requirements. Just a couple of things I want to highlight here before I dive into the demonstration and functionality, if you like. And that really revolves around the user and the type of user that is utilizing the application. You'll see that I've got this element called persona. At the moment, I'm a maintenance technician. There's a number of different persona that are available to you in the solution out the box as standard. And I will describe those in a little bit more detail. So what you can see here is the one that's selected for this use case is the maintenance technician. If you were operating against field service orders, then again, I'd be looking to use a field service technician. If you had somebody within a facility or out in the field that was going to operate across control of work, lockout, tagout type activities or processing of permits or certifications associated with that, then you would use a safety technician persona. And similarly, if you were operating within the storeroom, handling the inventory in support of operations, you would look to utilize the inventory clerk persona. So the solution comes with a number of capabilities. The impact that has, excuse me, is how the application is designed and what functions and features are deployed within the application in support of those elements. So it does profile the application differently depending upon which persona you select. As I mentioned, I've currently got the maintenance technician. You will see the impact of that when we get to the operational screen. You'll see here that it's split into a number of different elements, and that one I've just highlighted there really is giving you a very quick overview of currently what is against you as an individual. I've got one in progress order, which is actually the burst incident we've been looking at now in processing, order 604. I've got 7 open orders against me and none complete. If I let this run for a little bit longer, you'll see the kind of features and functions I've got available to me to process. So that's either recording time, creating orders or notifications, or viewing information through the map. My work, so this is specifically work in a bit more detail that's against me in terms of my backlog. Moving down the screen, you'll see the similar sort of information around my notifications, labor time associated with that. I've got other ways of accessing that same information through these summary views at the bottom. So operations, I've got 8 operations currently assigned to me. Work orders, I've got 8 work orders, and that might be different actually. You might have multiple operations within one work order assigned to you. So the numbers don't necessarily need to be exactly the same. Similarly, in notifications, there's equipment and functional locations that relate to the regions I operate in. Next thing I'm just going to show you very briefly is my navigating through the spatial viewer within the mobile application to interact with the objects that I've just been describing. Now, this is me zooming in on the area in the city region that we've been acting in terms of the NRW cockpit and the geospatial representation I showed you earlier. The one thing I will say, this will show you on the map, regardless of where it is in the map, any orders or operations that are assigned to you. You saw over the other side of the US that there was another piece of work associated with me. So it will pick up anything that is assigned to you. This is obviously a demonstration system. So what you're seeing now is again, that zone representation. It's only picked up zone 1 because at this point in time, from the work I've been assigned, I'm only seeing work that's relating to zone 1. So even though all these other zones are available in terms of the solution, nothing's been assigned to me, so it won't render that information on the view. So again, I've selected the zone, and you can see that it's now picking up all of the information that relates to that zone and relates to me. Specifically looking at the burst work order 604, very high work order. I can do various operations against that work order should I choose. Again, this can be designed specific to your needs. You may not want people to change work orders in the field, which is a common occurrence. You can see that the operational information is again available through the work order view. But what I'm going to do is actually access this information from the operational overview back at the start of the application. So backing out of the work order, I'm going to look at the operational overview and then select that operation for progress. It should be this guy here. There we go. So you can see I've now selected and got a view of all the operations that relate to my backlog. I'm going to select 604 and look at that operation on order 604. And you can see that I've got the ability to confirm time. That could take on a number of different things. I could actually override the time that's been allocated or put other information in. We have the ability, and I'm not going to show it in this demonstration purely because of time constraints, but I have the ability to add documents. I have the ability to use the facilities of the mobile device, should that be audio recordings or camera, take photographs. So all of these things can be utilized and loaded against the confirmation process, enriching the information that's fed back through the notification and the order update. At this point, I'm just going to demonstrate a very simple update. I'll put some information in the notes to describe what I've done. In this case, work complete. And I'll set as final confirmation, which will push the operation to complete. I'll let this run through. You'll see the updates flowing back through the system as I back out of the transaction. As you can see, there's various other things I can add information here. You can see the order is now completed. As I back out, you'll see the update in the order list, order complete. So just to summarize what I've shown there, and I do appreciate that's a very whistle-stop run through it. And my point here is just to demonstrate art of the possible. There's very many things we can do to craft this in the right way for different operations. It's a highly flexible solution, both in terms of the configuration of the workflow and process, but also in terms of the user interaction on the SAP side. or on the mobility SAP side. So just to run through what I've showed in recap, as Dries showed the interaction with field operations to harness that data to drive a analysis on the leak information, and then drive an event where there's an incident, cumulative or burst otherwise. We've utilized SAP BTP through the Create Notification API to create a notification in the SAP ERP environment. I've processed that from notification through to order, and then we've dispatched that through to the mobile device, and then executed some activity against that order on the mobile device to the point of confirmation, and then exited from that point. All of that can be done in a very rapid fashion, and as I said, highly flexible solution, and we can design that in a way that suits your operations.
All right.
I think that really to hand over back to you, Jared, just to summarize in terms of the benefits.
Yeah. Thanks, Stuart, and thanks, Dries, for the detailed demo. I believe Dries mentioned earlier, this solution is live and deployed at water utilities, and the benefits you see here on the screen, they're tangible results. We have a webinar from last year with a roundtable of clients who were live on the solution talking about the benefits of deploying NRW Cockpit, and they touch on what you see here. One of the customers talks about just having a large network and a small team responsible for leak detection. More to do than people to do it, common theme in the utilities industry, but talk about how NRW Cockpit truly enabled them to do more with less. And in that roundtable, they all gave figures on percentages of decrease in non-revenue water loss. But on the right, drawing your attention there, the fast EAM you see is a reference to our accelerators. Again, investment in industry-specific IP and solutions is a focus of Delaware, and that allows us to optimize the time to value for both the EAM portion of this and the integration. So with that, I think that concludes our presentation. I do want to just wrap with another shameless plug for SAP for Utilities. We're going to be there again if you weren't on at the beginning. Booth 206, conference in Miami, September 9th through the 11th. So please do let us know if you're going to be there. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. And we'd love to just network and get to meet everybody in person. The ASUG event is always a great networking event. So I think we're going to end with just some common questions that we get here, and I guess we got another one just in from Drew. What is the typical implementation speed for a large water company?
Concerning the NRW Cockpit, this runs in the cloud, so the application itself can be set up quickly in the cloud, and we are cloud independent, so we will choose a cloud related to the company where we implement it, so that's fastly done. But then it's the purpose to connect the sensor data from the client, and then we need to integrate a kind of script or interface between the sensors of the client and the application, and that will, depending on the size and the systems we need to use, we are running in a few weeks.
Great, thanks, Dries. Another common question we get is, do I need to be on S/4HANA to use this solution?
No is the answer. And actually, I'll maybe answer a bit in the last question as well. I think so. It could be any SAP ERP with the ability to integrate. As Dries said, the NRW Cockpit has a very open integration platform. So I was obviously talking about SAP S/4HANA APIs using BTP, but we can integrate through to existing ECC6 environments in the same sort of way. So the integration concept is not an issue. Just to kind of answer the time frame to implement, it's a very open question from an SAP point of view. But if I maybe put some constraints around that, if you're already operating an SAP maintenance solution, and what you're looking to do is drive more efficiency with exploiting the information coming from field ops and NRW Cockpit, and maybe also looking to enhance the capabilities in the field operations through mobility. If what we were doing, the scope of this was around integration and mobility, those two things can be implemented in a number of short months. Again, obviously depending on the scale and of the organization we're deploying to, but it's not trivial. But equally, it can be done rapidly because you've already got the maturity in the back end workflow and processes. We're enabling it through mobility and integration. So it's something we can deploy pretty quickly. You also mentioned that we've got the EEM, fast EEM accelerators. We would exploit that because we've done this before. So it's not net new for us. We just adapt that.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Stuart. And then one more question. Good question here. If a utility does not currently leverage DMAs, can you assist in consulting in this area?
Sure, indeed. We as Hydroscan can surely we start with the data they have indeed and see what is possible for leakage detection management, but we also can have a consultancy side that can manage, that can guide them to construct these DMAs to the future. Of course, clients that don't have real-time data, that's the thing, but yeah, that's also guidance we can do for implementing that. It will take a little bit longer for they are really up and running in leakage detection than on a real-time basis, but that's also a service we deliver for sure.
Thanks, Dries. Okay, we are coming up on the hour here. Do want to close out with just I think we're going to flash up some ways for you guys to connect with us all. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn directly. And as we there's a connect for Dries. And as we close this thing out, we are going to share a video for an overview of Delaware. So thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time on our live stream series, and really appreciate the interaction, the questions, and the engagement. Hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.